We're up to Perek Ches in Tefilah. The last thing that he had described was the avodah of karbonis is to break the self and to realize how the life of living life not connected to Hashem is empty. But the last thing he said in the previous perek was that itself feeling of shviras halev is a tolda of dvekas, because it's dafka because you have a connection to Hashem that residue makes you realize what you're missing, as opposed to someone who doesn't even experience that. The very fact that you feel like you're missing something indicates that there's a relationship that you have with Hashem, and you just would like more of it. And he said that when Hashem created the world and he removed his light to create the kalim of this world, there was a residue left, and that residue is sort of experienced when you sort of notice his absence, so to speak. Okay, so Perek Ches, he says like this: Lefi dvareinu hanal b'inyan seder atfilah. As we're going through the order of davening, nimtza she'ad kan hayinu oiskim bebinyan malchus beis David benefesh adam. We said the beginning of davening is building the nefesh, which is malchus beis David, and we said the way to do that is by sur merah, by breaking down of the self. V'achshav b'seder pesukei zimra metchila avodas binyan beis hamikdash. Now we've already built David HaMelech, which is the breaking down ani teilas v'lo yish. And now we're up to the building. No more breaking, now we're up to building. The minig is to begin Pesukei Zimra with Hoidu. And the source of the words of Hoidu are found in Divrei Hayamim. That the source of Hoidu was that it was said by David HaMelech when he was bringing the Aron from the Plishtim to Yerushalayim. And that's why if Pesukei Zimra is to build the Beis HaMikdash, which is the three corresponding to the three parts, the Chachma Bina V'das, the Seichel of a person, and that's the Binyan Beis HaMikdash, which is the higher parts of the Neshama, the Nefesh, Ruach Neshama, and Chaya. That's the highest part. So that's why you start with Hoidu, which is all about Binyan Beis HaMikdash, because Hoidu was said when they were bringing the Aron towards the Beis HaMikdash. It's the beginning of the building, is to bring the Aron. Sheheichin David b'chayev. Hareishan maschil mas Pesukei Zimra. Therefore, we're beginning Pesukei Zimra. Shematimim lahaschalas binyan hamikdash b'nishmas ha'adam, which is the beginning of the building of Beis HaMikdash within yourself. Im shiras David al tchilas binyan Beis HaMikdash, with the shira of David, which was said at the beginning of the building of the Beis HaMikdash. V'chein b'soif Pesukei Zimra. And how do we end Pesukei Zimra? We end it with Vayvarach David. As Yasher afterwards, but towards the end we say Vayvarach David. Vayvarach David is also from Divrei Hayamim. Shalachar she'asav David HaMelech is called Akesa v'zav k'dei she'yishleima b'nai muchad livnais et Beis HaMikdash. Amar David brachazu. The Vayvarach David was the bracha that David HaMelech said after he gathered enough money to complete the building. He didn't build in his life, but he did all the hachanas, the preparations to build in the Beis HaMikdash. Then he said this bracha. Again, it's in that theme of building the Beis HaMikdash. Which is again rebuilding that Beis HaMikdash, that you have the three parts of the Beis HaMikdash, which is Pesukei Zimra, Shman, Shmon Esrei, and you have the fourth part, which is David HaMelech. So you already built David HaMelech in Karbonis, and now you're beginning to build the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. He says, "V'gam mavur lefi dvareinu le'el shesei the Pesukei Zimra miyuchad hu keneged makam Azara shel Mikdash." We also said that if the avodah of davening is to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash has three parts. The first part is the Azara. That's where the Mizbeach was, and that's the beginning, and that's Pesukei Zimra. Ube'emes makam Azara hayamakam shayu levim sharim zazmir shelahem. The truth is, the Azara was where the Levim would sing Shira, Pesukei Zimra, songs. Ube'emes kasav ha'balatanya b'sefer Likutei Torah, Pesukei Zimra shanu oimrim harei keneged Shiras haLevim shayom b'mikdash. The Balatanya says that Pesukei Zimra is very much connected and recreating the singing of the Levim and Shira in the Beis HaMikdash, which is in the Azara, which is what Pesukei Zimra is coming to rebuild. V'zeh matim in dvareinu anal shepesukei Zimra him keneged Azara hamakom sheba Levim oimrim Shira. B'hinei, ad kan ikar avodas adam haisa b'chinas surmera. Right, we said that the avodah of rebuilding yourself through karbonis, right, realigning. Again, this whole thing is to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash and rebuild David HaMelech. It also means to realign yourself with Hashem. So we said the first avodah is sur merah. is to avoid sin, to realize the devastation of sin, and to break down the self. That's Pesukei Zimra. After Sur Meirah, it's now Aseh Tov. So, V'hainu limois bepsichas madrigasei shebayu nimtza, v'lishaber v'lishbar liba b'kirboi. Aval achsha machzil havodas v'aseh tov. Now is the beginning of Aseh Tov. Hainu, l'dabik atzim madrigas gedoilis, v'lalas lamayla. To medabik yourself in madrigas gedoilis and to keep on going high. Ube'emes, kan maschil ha'ikr ha'mulcham e'meyitzahar shenumitz ba'adam. This point is where the Ikar Milchama begins with the Yitzhahara. Sha'ad kan Ikar Avidasa Haisel Lanos Mehara. You see, Sur Meirah is not fighting the Yitzhahara, it's running away from the Yitzhahara. It's avoiding. But now if you actually want to grow, you got to stand and fight. It's interesting because Aseh Tov you wouldn't think is dealing with the Yitzhahara, but it is. Because Sur Meirah is just avoiding. It's running. Aseh Tov is actively. He says, "Milchama zu she'achshav v'oisik by ein rak l'kayim mitzvahs, v'shaloi l'kashal b'yisurim, shebevadei av madrigas hanefesh shemidas hamalchus avodas adim l'ishmer es atzma shaloi kashal b'yisurim v'lasas rak masher tzivla Torah." The ikar milchama is not just to do mitzvahs and avoid averis. Ikar ini milchama she'achshav mutalas lavu ini noisif al shmiras hamitzvahs b'poil. The ikar milchama right now is not just externally what you're doing; it's deeper than that. And now we're going to just begin Perek Tes, which you should be very familiar with. Perek Tes is where he summarizes the first 9 prakim of Balatanya. Because the avodah is not necessarily just external. You have to try to fix the internal. You have to change the mechanisms inside. Levaris Indian in Perek Tes, he says to explain this, Yesh lahakdim biv divrei hatanya shemei bishamer of Chaim Vital. The Balatanya, I'll do this fairly quickly because this parak should be very familiar with you, which is he's summarizing, I think, the first 9 prakim of Tanya. The Balatanya in the first parak quotes from Chaim Vital that says, there's 2 souls. Plural souls. One comes from the klipas. This is referred to the Yetzirah, or the Nefesh HaBahamas, which Yussie looks at the same. It's always very tricky to me to understand. Is Nefesh HaBahamas, is that used by the Yitzhahara? Is the Yitzhahara Malach? Or is the Nefesh HaBahamas a code name for the Yitzhahara? And he says, Shenefesh zu shabad mesavel dvarim gashtim kebehema. Umenu bos kol midas rois marbi yisaydis ram shabad. And this is where all the midas rois come from all the 4 yisaydis. You say this is right: earth, wind, fire, and water. You say merishayim sha'adam v'chol mitzias kula nivnu ma'arbi yisoidus v'meish ruach mayim va'ofer. Rav Chaim Vital mevar shkemidas adam ativis haba min neshama zu yesh lemidas mikol yisoid v'soid. Dahainu kas v'gayvim yisoid eish shenigva l'mayla v'tayvis atnugim yisoid amayim ke'amayim atzmichim kol min etaynig v'hoilus v'litzanus v'svaris v'dvarim betelim yisoid ruach v'atzvus v'atzvus yisoid ha'ofer. Again, these 4 midas. These four elements, that from those 4 elements, all negative traits come. And he says, and the Balatani continues that even though it comes from the klipa, but there's a difference between the Nefesh HaBahamas of a Jew and Nefesh HaBahamas of a Goy. Because all the good quality midas of a Jew, the natural teva of a Jew that is good, which is by Shan Rachman and Govin Chasadim, also comes from the Nefesh HaBahamas. And he says, Yesh Begam Kein Toiv, Imisoid Eitz Adas Toivera, because the Nefesh HaBahamas of a Jew is not klipas atmeis, it's klipas noiga, which is Eitz Adas Toivera. It's a combination of the 2. As opposed to by the goyim, she'ein behem rak mitzaratuma, the goyish nefesh bahamas is klipas hatmeis legamri. I feel it's varm toivim she'oisim enel toiv is atzman. Okay, fine. Then Perek Beis mevar oid. The Balatani continues in the second parak. She's oid nesham b'Yisrael, but there's a second soul. That's nefesh hashenis b'Yisrael. He chelik elikami mal mamish v'yipach v'apach v'nishas chayim. He talks about this neshama. V'hine Perek Tes u'mevar. The Balatani explains in Perek Tes, the place that, metaphorically, that is connected to the Nefesh HaBahamas, who believe Chlal HaSmali, which is the left ventricle of the heart, Shumalei Dam, which is full of blood, which is the most animalistic part. And therefore the heart, the emotion, is where all negative traits come from. And the heart is able to overcome the mind if the person doesn't try hard enough. Just like the blood pumps to the rest of the body. But the part of the godly soul is found within the mind. And that goes from the heart, it goes from the mind to the right part. The right part of the heart is the area of the battlefield. That means that the emotions are connected to the nefesh bahamas. But it is possible, this is the difference between a tzaddik and a beinoni, but it is possible that the neshama, the nefesh alikis, is able to override the nefesh bahamas akadei kach, that even the emotions will be used for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'chein kasav atanisham, shemispashetes haneshama alikis, sheikr mekim moyach lechlal hiyamini shebelev, mizeh bo hakoyach leslahev uspayel b'midoysav v'inyan yavedes Hashem, was a nefesh bahamas botel legamri nefesh alikis, to overcome the nefesh bahamas legamri. This creates a love for Hashem. But using their mind to think about Hashem, that creates an avas Hashem. When you think about the grandeur of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This madrega of a beinoni, tzaddik, whatever it is, it's only shaykh by Yisrael. She'ava nefesh b'hamash shalei inei tam legamri k'moisha v'esilamayla. U'b'shemhachi shaykh l'shtamish b'likdusha. Avumas ha'olam ein shaykh ken. Hoil v'akoil hu mitzad atum agmura. You can't use the nefesh bahamas ever if the nefesh bahamas is klibis hatmeis. V'zeh klal gadol b'teres b'al shem tov. She'af midas hativish shel Yisrael hin maleis kedusha. Tzrichim la'avdus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'lei la'azal l'shabras hamidas shebelev legamri. Ubevadai hasoiris shebelev v'guf ha'adam bein ledvarim gashmim, bein ledvarim ruchniim, ina etzem mahus neshamas elu. It's not the mahus of these neshamas; it's the expressions of these neshamas. El neshamas elu ruchniim ashbiyim al lev haguf l'spoil ledvarim toivim lehepach. The koyach zel nefesh ruchni lashbiyim al lev haguf nikr b'loshen asvarim shenesham mislabeshes, mislabish. The nikr came b'derech pshat mishum shelavush gash misham loivish oisa shnei dvar. The lavush that a person does, it accomplishes two things. Mitzad echad hu mastir mechasas adam. First of all, it clothes you and conceals you. Mitzad sheni dafke deishad mechasas atam lavushim yachal adam latzis achutza. But it's dafke because you're clothed, you're able to actually go outside and be exposed to other people. V'gam achir michoyim lahakim madregas ha'idei begad lavushim. V'nimtza shemitzad ha'adam kishu la'atzmai ein lavushay el koyach ha'mastir. Mitzad sheni dafke de lavush adam megala atzma shar nashim. Chenu b'chol koyach ha'neshama. Shav shemitzad atzma shidav ruchni liyos b'tach gufa gashmi huester loy. The neshama in a physical body, the body is concealing the neshama. Av mitzad sheni dafke de halev v'haguf yechoy neshama legalas atzma laharis koyach. But it's dafke the body is actually able to expose the neshama, to allow it to express itself in this physical world. Therefore, it's the clothing, because it's both concealing and revealing it at the exact same time. So he says in the next page, V'hine hatanya, mamshich levar. The Tanya explains. This is in I think Perek Yud Beis. Achine ksiv l'oim l'oim yamatz, that there's a battle. Ki aguf nikr ir katana u'kamoisha shnei malachim nilcham ir acha shekalecha roitz l'chvoisha v'limach aleha. That the same way you have a city where two kings are fighting over lahanig yishver kirtzayin v'shiyusarm l'mashmosa b'chol sheyigzar lem to control the city. Kach dein afashis. So too the two souls are fighting over the city of the body. Helikus v'achiyunas ha'bahamis shebeklipis necham zu mzu al aguf al chayivarev. Shalikis chavtza ritzoyne shetehila v'adam mishalis lo manhiga b'chol ivarim yehusarim mashmeuso b'tein l'metzel l'gamri merkavei leha ach nevesh bahamus shemaklipa ritzoyne l'hapach mamish l'tovis adam shizgabela. So this is fate. Haresha bir lanu atani shesh mochamezu b'toicha adam bein nefesh alikis bein nefesh bahamus al memshal shalaguv v'kol koyisa. Who's going to control the body and all of its abilities? Ubeperik Yud Beis Hatani Mevar Sha'af Mi Shegarvel Yitzur Hara V'Li'aver Ver Miyodov. Even if a person always wins against the Yetzer Hara and has never sinned, it could be that you're not considered winning this battle, meaning to completely control. It could be that that's only a tzaddik, not a beinoni. That's called a beinoni. Because he never actually wins. He wins the expression of the fight, meaning he never actually actively sins, but the battle is still waging. But he says, "V'shem tzaddik miyuchad rak l'misha menatzeach b'milchama." A tzaddik is someone who wins the battle. Habir b'zehu she'af sheneshama lekis meinas hanefesh habahamas mislebesh es machshava dibur ma'isa shel adam laver l'isur mamish. Even though a beinoni is able to stop the nefesh habahamas from actively sinning, both in thought, speech, or action, va'adarabba neshava lekis mishabed es haguf lasses kol mitzvahs v'lo laver osham aver. And I never do an avera, and I only do mitzvahs. Aval soif. But the very fact that you have a taiva to do these things, that means that it's not batal. And you still have the desire. That means that it's still strong. But even though you never allow it to think, let alone to speak or even to do, that just means that you're not expressing what you'd like to do. But that means that a beinoni will never actually fully win that battle, win the war. He'll maybe win every battle, but not the war. Al nefesh bahamas kol kach at she'af etzem nefesh bahamas betela elav. The avoid is to have the nefesh bahamas completely subjugated. That you don't even have a taiva to rebel against Hashem. Al nefesh bahamas at she'af etzem nefesh bahamas betela lekadusha. Ve'ina misavel dvarim shebekdusha. And even though that ideal is really the role of a tzaddik to be able to win, to completely overcome the nefesh bahamas to the point where it's no longer fighting, a beinoni is able to taste the madrega of a tzaddik, not fully, but he's able to sort of experience a little bit of what it's like to be a tzaddik. Bizmanim yuchadim, kemoi b'shas tfilu kiyotzebay, shemislav liba kadosh baruch hu. That at least for that moment it's batal. It's not batal legamri, but at least it's for that moment it's batal. You taste the avodah of a tzaddik. It's not a tzaddik, but it's getting close. And these are the words of the Tanya. Tanya says, "Habeini hu shel olam ein hara." We'll run through this very quickly because it's mamish. Habeini hu shel olam ein hara gover kol kach lich b'shazir katan slabish b'guf achtia. Ein avesh b'hamas gover b'oil nefesh l'kusel slabish b'guf moyach umpeh b'shara machivarim l'achtiam l'tam l'chasashom. He never sins. V'loi aver aver b'yamav. V'loi laver l'olam. V'loi nikra olav shem rasha. Afilu sha'achas v'regel echel kol yamav. Ach mahus v'asus nefesh l'kis loy lahein levad hamlucha. But there's still a battle. Hamshala b'yer katana came be'itim muzumanim. Except he's only able to completely win the war at few moments. Kamei b'shas kriyashma u'tfilah. Shishas moichin degadlus l'maylo v'gam lamata he shas koish l'choladam. Shal mekasher chabad shelo l'Hashem lahamik daita b'gdul sein seif baruch hu l'oiris ahava karish be'esh b'chayimani shebeliba l'davka b'bekim ter mitzvahs b'ahava. V'os harash b'chlal l'smali kofuv u'batal l'toiv ha'mispash b'chlal yimani m'chabad shemoichem ksher b'gdul sein seif. When he thinks about those things, that's when the nefesh adlikis is nisgaber. But the second davening is over. The comes back. Again, he always wins the battles. He never actually does the avera because the nefesh adlikis is strong. But you're not a tzaddik. Because the nefesh alikis is only winning in the machshava dibur ma'isa, but the nefesh bahamas is still there. He's still fighting. V'loy b'mehusav atzmusa. Amahusav atzmusa shal aklipa. Ki mehusav atzmusa shal nefesh bahamish aklipa chmal smali loy dichol v'klamim koim b'benni achar tefilah. Shein rish be'esh be'avetz Hashem b'skalas li b'chlal imani. V'az yachali is sichlas aksil hara b'skalas liba b'chlal smali tayvas tayva l'chonia gash v'soyel mazeh. Bein beheter bein me'isach hashem ki ilu lo hispal klal. And the second davening is over. It's mamish like that never happened. According to this, not everyone tzaddikim are born, not made. And he says, that's why Chazal talk about there are not so many tzaddikim in every generation. But everyone could be a beinoni. To never sin. That's in your capability. And everyone is able to taste that madriga of a tzaddik during Shema and Shemon Esrei. Not just that we can, we have to. That's what it means, to serve Hashem with the Yetzer Hara, meaning to that there are moments where you're able to have the Yetzer Hara is actually having taivas for Tov. It's a command. That's why there was such an emphasis on emotion, on fervor, on that emotion in davening and learning in Chassidus. And not just because practically, if you're into it, you'll do it better. No. The etzem eslavus itself is important because it creates that ability to taste that world of the tzaddik. So it's not just that like you'll do it, it's more likely you won't forget tefillin if you're into tefillin. No. But if you're into tefillin, then it could be when you're wearing the tefillin, you'll be able to taste that world of the tzaddik. And he says in Perek Yud, avodas Pesukei de Zimra pianal. Now you understand what is Pesukei de Zimra. Sha'avoida mitzad hanefesh b'seder karbonis haisa b'china sumira. Avoidas karbonis sumira. V'nu shemargish es atzma meruchik me'akadosh baruch hu, that you felt distance from Hashem. U'misavel dvarim lo'tovim, and you had taiva for things that are no good. V'nu mishum she'adayin eina nefesh b'hamash le'betela l'kedusha, because your nefesh b'hamas was still very strong when you were saying karbonis. Avidasa. And the whole point of karbonis is saying, listen, I have all these taivas. I'm not getting rid of the nefesh b'hamas. I just got to stop listening to it. No more averis. No more machshava diber ma'isa. No, that like reinforcing yourself the role of a beinoni. That's what karbonis really is. You're saying I have all these negative ideals, negative thoughts, but I have to live my life of never sinning. Reinforcing the roll call of a beinoni. That's what karbonis is. You understand? But now there's a shift. Now the avoid is to begin v'asei tov. Hainu lizgaber neged nefesh habahamas shebeliboy v'lichboisha el kedusha. To now begin to try to taste that world of the tzaddik she'enei gomer. Zoysei meres. What I mean is, so he says. Zoysei meres. What I mean is, avoid this adam b'sei the Pesukei de Zimra who lit madrigas tzaddik. V'ulahamik begadlos Hashem. The Pesukei de Zimra. The Indian of Pesukei de Zimra is his boinus. Is achet battle nefesh b'hamash shaloi el kedusha v'yislai bliber kibel dveikus b'yisbarach. Where till that nefesh b'hamas is nullified, either nullified legamri, nullified, okay, whatever it is. But now it's no longer being mesavel advar masurim. V'yisbol af b'levav elav nesakadosh baruch v'yitam adam matam madrigas tzaddik. U'fizeh yesh levar mashemetzinu b'sefer shari oira. He says, I saw in the Sefer Shari, is a big Kabbalah Sefer from Rabbi Yussie Zakutinsky, shemevar shaloshem Pesukei de Zimra hu maloshen zoymer. Pesukei de Zimra, Pashas means song, but Zmira is actually to prune. Zomer is to prune. Hainu sheidei amiris psukim elu ha'adam zoimer v'koiris es koiches hatuma shema'akim tefilas malalas lamayla. That it prunes all the negative things, manias, that stop the tefilas from going up. Obviously, he means Kabbalistic concepts. But according to us, this is the Ikr Melchama against the Yitzhahara. Ikr Kli Melchama Sheish B'Yedenu Him Psukim Eil Lahamik Behem L'Zbayin Megalas Hashem Ad Sheyichbay Shes Nefesh Bahamas Al Tzaddik Kedusha. She's live Leva Adam Bekir V'Ladav K'Yisbarach. That by doing this, you're sort of pruning down the koyach of the Nefesh Bahamas. B'chol Zeh Mekusher L'Madregas Haruach Sheba'Adam. Right? If Avodas HaKarbanis is Nefesh, so the Zimmer is Ruach, the next one. Hainu Mishum Shechelik Haruach Shebeneshama Hu Keneged HaTkufa Hashniya B'Meshach Gidol Adam. Remember, right, there was different tkufas of a person. The first one is when you're purely physical, like a baby. The second one is the Ruach, is the second Madrega, which is adolescence. Sha'afcha HaTkufa Rishon Nishu Kedoimeim Doimeim Tzaimech Chai Medaber. Nispasha Bekoich Midaisav V'ikam Mahusa Adam Madrega Zuhi Mitzad Midas Levavoi. Right, there's three madregas. There was the first one when you're like an infant in an utero, where it's just goof. Then probably adolescence or your child, where you're run by your emotions, and then you go to intellect. So he says, Nispash b'kaych midaisav ikar mahusa adam madrega zu, the ikar mahusa of adam in the second madrega, hu mitzad midais levavoi, is run by emotion. Obviously, a person has seichel. You use your intellect in order to run your emotions. Ruach is serving Hashem purely emotional. And you're using your mind in order to be ma'or the lev. And that's the point. This is the high madrega. The highest madrega of this is using your intellect to have his boinus, to now use the lev for good things. If you look at number 1 on the bottom, that's what das is, to hold on, to make it actualize. Azara b'mikdash. Right? If Karbanis, if Pesukei is the Azara, we're still in the Azara, which is she'ikar havoida b'makam Azara ha'yalahakriv Karbanis b'heim al gav mizbech. So you're taking the animal, you're taking the nefesh Bahamas, you're taking the behema, and you're shechting it for God. So instead of being like a Beinani, you're trying to get to that world of a tzaddik, which is the Beinani has the nefesh Bahamas running amok, the animal's running around. What happens in the Azara? You shech the animal for Hashem. So he says, "V'hainu keneged avodas Pesukei d'Zimra shehu lachnias nefesh Bahamas shabadam tzaddik kedusha." With the shira of the Levium in the same place. And that's why it's being sung at the same time. He says, that by singing Shira Pesukei d'Zimra, you're able to cut down the Nefesh Bahamas to get to that world of a tzaddik. L'fi d'vareno now, yesh levar b'derech drush, we could explain b'derech drush, isa ba'avos, echa me'anisim shenasa Beis HaMikdash haya, sh'lo nimtza zvuv ba'azara. One of the miracles in the Beis HaMikdash is that there was never a fly. Simple pshat is that there was full of blood, there's no fly. Ava b'sha yusheich l'misar v'shem gavas. L'fi now yesh levar, shayel makam azara k'neged ha'madrega sh'adam shayel mulchama k'neged yitzhara, v'loichim im elachni l'kedusha, mishum echa me'anisim hu shezvuv l'her nimtza sham. The miracles is no fly. Why? Because the Gemara describes the Yetzirah as a fly. The Gemara says, meaning the miracle is there's no zvuv by the Beis HaMikdash. Meaning it's not a makom for Beinim anymore, it's a makom for tzaddikim. But there's no zvuv, there's no Yetzirah being shoylet. Atani mevar mashen roim bechush daf geshad mispal a neifel by machshav zar shmakim vaysil mispal. The Baal Tanya explains the phenomenon that's dafka when you're davening, that you have all these machshavas that are trying to stop you. Baal Tanya says, "V'afilu neifel lo hirhure taivus v'shar machshav zaras b'toiro b'tefilah b'chavona al yoshas leave alein." Don't worry at them. Yisich das meim karega. Forget about it. V'al yipa liba b'kirboy liyas mizaotzev, and don't allow it to make you sad. Nivze b'shas avoida shetzarich liyas b'simcha rabba, because the Jew has to be b'simcha. Ela adar rabba yischazik yoyser v'yoyisif oimitz b'chol koichoi b'kavonas hatfilah b'ched b'simcha yisera b'sumah liboy. Think about this. Ki nefilas ha'machshava Azara himeklipa shebechlal asmali ha'oisam l'chama nefesh alikishaboy. It's dafka from the Yetzer Hara. They're trying to get you. B'noide derech n'lchamim. And in the way a mulchama is, it's dafka from desperation that you start shooting more. And therefore, when the nefesh alikis is strong, growing stronger, not like what people think, that if I have bad thoughts, it means my davening is no good. It's the opposite. It's dafka because your davening is amazing that you're having these thoughts. It's like if a guy is trying to talk to you because he wants to get you to stop. Don't think about it. Because if you fight with the Russia, you'll become a Russia. Meaning, if you get in the mud, you'll get muddy. And don't fight. We're not at a point of fighting anymore. He's trying to drag you down to Beinani world. That's the point. When you're davening, remind yourself you're a tzaddik at this point. You make it as if like you don't know what they're talking about. Bim yikshalei lahasir medaitim v'nei shetardim daitim me'od b'chazaka. Oz yashpil atzmi l'Hashem yischanalei yizbarach machshavte l'rachim alav b'rachim of hamerubim k'rachim avodim davin de'arachmanis l'hatzel m'mayim ezadonim l'mayno yasa Hashem ki chelek Hashem amah. That's the avodah of in the next parak that we'll do next time. It's a murdik parak.